What is up guys, Jarv here, back today jumping into Destiny. In today's video, we're taking a look at some of the best weapons you should get your hands on ahead of Season 23. Season of the Wish has been officially confirmed and will be launching on the 28th of November. So if you want to find out the kind of weapons you should be checking your vault for and dusting off prior to the new season, then be sure to stick around and enjoy the video. If you do enjoy the video, be sure to leave a comment and rating down below, and remember to subscribe for more Destiny 2 content. But without further delay guys, let's jump into the video. Now with each and every season we get a plethora of new seasonal weapon updates, and going into Season 23 we see plenty of changes coming our way. This includes buffs and nerfs to some of Destiny's favourite weapons. So with those changes in mind, the meta does change, especially inside PVE. So today we're going to take a look at 10 weapons that are absolute musts on your lists going into Season of the Wish. Now the first weapon we're going to take a look at, and one probably getting the biggest buff going into Season 23, is the Vex Mythoclast. Now this is a unique fusion rifle that fires like an auto rifle and is exclusive to the Vault of Glass raid. Now this is getting some of the biggest buffs going into the up and coming season, including buffs to damage against minor combatants and bosses, and Bungie are also tripling the damage against champions when using the alternative firing mode. Now, as we said, you can get this from the Vault of Glass raid by defeating Atheon, and this is available as an RNG drop. Now, its main trait is Timeless Mythoclast, and this weapon fires in full auto when in its default firing mode. It also has Temporal Unlimiter, so by defeating targets, this builds stacks of overcharge, and once you build stacks of overcharge up, you can switch to an alternative firing mode, and this will allow the weapon to charge up and fire a more powerful linear fusion shot. It is this particular round that's had its damage tripled going into Season 23, and if that wasn't enough, it also has its own catalyst that you can earn during the raid, and this is where final blows with the weapon grant bonus damage, accuracy and stability for a short time. This is called Calculated Balance. Now Vex has always been seen as a particularly strong weapon, but when you consider some of the massive buffs coming in the up and coming season, this weapon will potentially be an absolute monster. Naturally, if this is a weapon that's been collecting dust in your vault, make sure to dust it off over the next couple of weeks. And if you haven't got your hands on it just yet, then get those fire teams together and jump into the Vault of Glass to get your hands on it. Now next up, we're going to take a look at the BXR-55 Battler, this legendary pulse rifle. Now this is available from Xur's treasure hoard over in Eternity via the Dares of Eternity activity. And this is a very unique weapon as it's the only legacy PR-55 frame available in the game. This is a customized frame with dramatically increased accuracy, stability and targeting when you fire from the hip. Now this weapon is a personal favourite of mine. I've even applied the ornament from the Festival of the Lost event on it. Now not only can you earn the weapon via Dares of Eternity, you can also pick up weapon patterns either by receiving Deep Sight Resonance versions of the weapon whilst playing, or if you have a few collecting dust in your vault, you can use your Deep Sight Harmonizers, which are available on your Season Pass, and you get 6 a season, 3 on the free track and 3 on the paid track. So if you have some still available, then this may be a weapon well worth considering. Now this weapon is great for all types of content, whether that be endgame PVE or even inside the Crucible. It has some incredible perk combinations available. If you're looking for the best PVE role though, then Demolitionist and Incandescent is a personal favourite of mine. Not only are ignitions immensely rewarding, it's a surefire way of quickly getting back your grenade, as those ignitions can proc the Demolitionist perk. Now as a legacy frame, it has a unique scope, making it great for ranged engagements, which is great for harder content. And when it comes to Season 23 buffs, pulse rifles are seeing an increase in their damage against minor and major combatants. If you already thought this weapon was absolutely top tier going into Season 23, it honestly looks like Bungie are putting the cherry on top of the cake. It's a weapon well worth having, so if you haven't picked it up, either jump into Dares of Eternity, or if you're able to craft it, head over to the Enclave and craft the weapon ahead of Season 23. Now next up, we're going to look at another exotic, and this comes in the form of Witherhoard. Now Witherhoard is a unique grenade launcher that sits in your kinetic slot, and it comes with the trait Primeval's Torment. This is where projectiles fired by the weapon blight the target or nearby areas upon impact. It also comes with a catalyst called Silent Alarm. This increases the handling, and holstering this weapon automatically reloads it after a short period of time. Now, if you haven't got your hands on the Witherhoard, you can pick this up from the Monuments of Lost Lights over in the tower, but originally it was available in Season of Arrivals. Now, whilst there's no immediate changes planned for the Witherhoard going into Season 23, this particular weapon is still an absolute must when it comes to harder PvE content. It forms the key part of most high DPS builds, as it's an excellent way of dealing additional passive damage. That aside though, it's also fantastic for ad clearing. If you often find yourself getting overwhelmed by combatants in things like the Altars of Summoning, then a weapon like Witherhoard can make short work of those particular encounters. And as we touched upon earlier, by dealing additional passive damage, it's also fantastic for champions. So once again, going into Season 23, depending on the challenges that we're preparing to face, Witherhoard is never normally far away when it comes to optimal PvE builds. So if you haven't got the Witherhoard yet, or haven't finished the Catalyst, then make sure to head over to the Monuments of Lost Lights before the end of the season, and be sure to pick this weapon up. Now next up, we're going to move on to rocket launchers, and next up we have the Cold Comfort. This is an aggressive frame, high impact rocket launcher, and is in fact number 1 in this particular archetype. And the Cold Comfort is available from the Ghosts of the Deep dungeon, and is a non-craftable weapon, so you will need to farm it out if you don't have a god roll on it. That being said though, we are due a new dungeon in Season 23. The Ghosts of the Deep will be added to the featured dungeon rotation, meaning there will be opportunities during the new season to farm out all the weapons in this activity. Now there's a few reasons that Cold Comfort makes this list. Primarily, it's one of the best legendary rocket launchers available in the game, aside from maybe Apex Predator, which is craftable and available from the Last Wish raid. But if you're not a keen raider, then this is a fantastic alternative. As well as potentially being more accessible to more players, it's also stasis, and stasis is going to be the key element going into Season 23. So when it comes to your artifact mods in the new season, really expect to see more synergies between stasis weapons and any new artifacts and fragments that the new season will choose to offer. Depending on what those synergies are, this could further elevate pretty much every stasis weapon in the game, and the Cold Comfort is top of the queue when it comes to weapons that will benefit from it. It has some incredible perk combinations, some of the most popular being Envious Assassin with Bait and Switch, or Envious Assassin and Explosive Light, which is the role that I have on it personally. So if you're looking for a hard-hitting, high-damage stasis rocket launcher going into Season 23, then there aren't any better options than the Cold Comfort rocket launcher. Now another exotic making the list is the Thunderlord. Now this weapon was originally available as part of Festival of the Lost, but is now available via exotic engrams, which should be extremely rare world drops, but with some of the changes over the last few seasons, exotic engrams are far more common than they used to be. If you're not able to get it through an exotic engram though, then Zer may sell it over the course of the weekend, and we cover his location right here on the channel, so keep your peepers peeled for that, and be sure to subscribe to the channel and I'll keep you up to date. Now the Thunderlord makes this list because it's just an absolute monster. Its main exotic trait is Rain Havoc, and the weapon does just that. This is where final blows with this weapon generate stunning lightning strikes from above, which is strong against disrupting overload champions. This will stun them intrinsically and doesn't require any additional mods. It also comes with a catalyst called Return Stroke, and this is where causing a lightning strike with the weapon partially reloads the magazine from reserves. Now its main intrinsic trait and its catalysts together make this one of the best weapons when it comes to clearing ads, taking out champions, and even dealing single target damage to some of the tankiest bosses. Whenever running a Arc 3.0 subclass, Thunderlord often makes the cut and is a key weapon of any Arc loadout. And whilst Arc isn't the key focus going into Season 23, there is truly nothing better than freezing your target and taking them out with a massive stroke of lightning. It's definitely one of the deadliest weapons in the game, and will be a weapon well worth considering for the up and coming season. Now next up, we're going to move on to auto rifles, and these are seeing a buff in Season 23 with increases in the damage against minor combatants. Now in Destiny 2, we are spoiled for choice when it comes to top tier auto rifles, things like the Amit AR2, Rufus's Fury, and one that I'm super hyped for Season 23 is the Crate. This is probably the long forgotten auto rifle, which is 720 rounds per minute. It's actually number 1 in its archetype and number 3 overall when it comes to auto rifles in the game. Now the crate is available from the world loot pool, and you can get this by opening legendary engrams and earning faction rank up packages over in the tower. On top of that, the gunsmith can also sell it, and going into next season there's also changes for the gunsmith which will see him selling foundry weapons. So it would be much easier to pick up weapons such as the crate in Season of the Wish. Now the crate makes the cut because it's an incredible stasis auto rifle. Now, as we touched upon earlier with the Cold Comfort, stasis weapons will be well worth dusting off going into Season 23. The synergies they could have with any of the artifact mods, any new fragments or aspects, could elevate any of these weapons to unknown levels. Now, the crate was a weapon that I could always rely on when running the Vow of the Disciple raid. It has some incredible perk combinations, with some of the favourites being Subsistence with Headstone and Overflow with Vorpal Weapon. Now, as an auto rifle that's 720 rounds per minute, it also comes with deeper ammo reserves and a super fast reload when your magazine is empty. It gets you back into the thick of the action as quickly as possible, and with perks like Subsistence and Headstone, you'll be pinning down all your targets and taking them out with relative ease. Now, naturally, Amit and Rufus's Fury are more than worthy alternative choices, but if you want to consider a stasis auto rifle for Season 23, and if you didn't pick up a good horror story during Festival of the Lost, then there aren't many better alternatives than the crate auto rifle. Now next up we have another exotic, and this comes in the form of Gjallarhorn. Now this weapon is available from the And Outfly the Wolves quest, which is part of the Grasp of Avarice dungeon. So you'll need to own the 30th anniversary pack in order to get your hands on it. Now Gjallarhorn has wolf pack rounds, where rounds fired split into tracking cluster missiles upon detonation. It also comes with a catalyst called More Wolves. This increases the magazine size, and final blows with wolf pack rounds spawn faster, more powerful missiles at the target's location. Now a big part of why this weapon makes the list, aside from being absolutely monstrous, it has a second exotic trait called Pack Hunter. This is where the weapon gains increased handling and reload when standing near allies, and firing this weapon also grants Wolfpack rounds to nearby allies wielding non-exotic rocket launchers. So with that in mind, you just need one member of your fire team to have Gjallarhorn equipped and be firing it, and every other member of your team will benefit from those Wolfpack rounds. It will make the other rocket launchers that we covered earlier in the video, things like the Cold Comfort, Apex Predator, and even the Bump in the Night, even more potent. So if you're looking for one of the hardest hitting rocket launchers in the game, but also want to be an absolutely top tier team player, then there aren't many better options than the Gjallarhorn rocket launcher. Now next up we're going to move on to wave frame grenade launchers, and naturally Forbearance makes the cut. This is actually number 3 when it comes to popular 72 RPM wave grenade launchers. Now wave frames are where projectiles release a wave of energy when it comes in contact with the ground, and Forbearance is up there with one of the best. This is available from the Vow of the Disciple raid, which as of the posting of this video is the featured raid for the current week. So if you haven't picked up this weapon, or you're still looking to earn deep sight resonance versions of the weapon to pick up the weapon patterns, then be sure to jump into there right now, as this will be your last opportunity before the end of Season 22. And this has some incredible perk combinations, Ambitious Assassin and Chain Reaction being one of the most popular, and much like the Thunderlord that we touched upon earlier, this forms a key part to a lot of Arc 3.0 builds. It's fantastic for creating ionic traces, but also dealing with immense groups of combatants. Now another wave frame to consider, and one that is stasis, is the new Pacific Epitaph. This is available from the Ghosts of the Deep dungeon. This sits at number 2 for 72 RPM wave grenade launchers, and this will be farmable within Season 23. Now we've mentioned a few times in this video already on the potential synergies that stasis could offer for the up and coming season, and depending on what those synergies are, could we see a weapon like the new Pacific Epitaph take Forbearance's crown? It has some incredible perk combinations for a wave frame, things like Demolitionist and Adrenaline Junkie, or even Demolitionist and Redirection. Now Redirection is where damaging a rank and file combatant increases damage against more powerful ones. They can build up stacks of Redirection up to a maximum of 20 stacks. Now if you manage to max this out and hit a major boss or vehicle, then this will consume 5 stacks but grant an increase of 20% in the weapon's damage. Out of all the weapons covered so far in the video, this is one that I'm most looking forward to using, using. So whether you choose to stick with Forbearance or try something new in the new Pacific Epitaph, be sure to dust those off ahead of Season 23. Now next up we move on to our last exotic. This comes in the form of the Thorn Hand Cannon. Now going into Season 23, this is seeing some huge changes. By picking up a Remnant, this will now overflow the mag up to 40 rounds. It's also getting a new Catalyst which will boost its range and stability, and kills and Remnant pickups grant additional range, handling and mobility on this weapon. Now if you don't have your hands on the Thorn, you can pick this up from the Monuments of Lost Lights over in the tower. Now its main exotic trait is where rounds pierce targets and deal damage over time, and kills with the weapon leave behind remnants. Now currently in Season 22, the Thorn is a powerful weapon even now. It's fantastic for champions. This is mostly due to its damage over time, but also as a weapon of sorrow. It has synergies with other weapons of sorrow too. This includes the Necrochasm, the Osteostriga, which is getting a nerf next season, and even the Touch of Malice. Now on top of those synergies, it's also getting all those changes we just mentioned, which is only going to elevate this weapon to another level entirely. If you thought you hadn't seen enough Thorn already, be prepared to see a lot more of it, not just in PvE, but also inside the Crucible. So if you haven't got the Thorn, make sure to go purchase it from the Monuments of Lost Lights, and quickly pick up that Catalyst in Season of the Wish. Now the 10th and final weapon we're taking a look at today is the Riptide, the legendary kinetic stasis fusion rifle. This is the #1 used fusion rifle in the game, and is a rapid fire frame, so it has deeper ammo reserves as well as the slightly faster reload when the magazine is empty. Now you can purchase the Riptide from Lord Shaxx over in the tower, and whilst the Riptide did see a slight nerf, it is still the fusion rifle of choice. Now in terms of the perk combinations you should be looking for, it comes with things like auto-loading holster and chill clip, or lead from gold and chill clip. Now not only is it fantastic for stunning champions, it can completely stop them in their tracks by freezing them solid. It's excellent for harder pieces of PvE content, but if you can't get a god roll from Lord Shaxx, then another worthy alternative is the Deliverance, which is another stasis fusion rifle available from the Vow of the Disciple raid. Like we touched upon earlier, the Vow of the Disciple is the featured raid as of the posting of this video, so whether you're chasing down the Forbearance, another weapon to consider could be the Deliverance fusion rifle too. Unlike the Riptide, Deliverance is craftable, meaning you can pick the exact perks that you want, whilst also leveling up the weapon to unlock enhanced versions of those traits. But with that being said, either weapon are absolutely top tier viable choices for the up and coming season, both offering deadly applications of stasis, which will definitely be an element you won't want to sleep on going into Season of the Wish. So there we have it guys, a good look on top 10 weapons you should consider ahead of Season of the Wish. If you've enjoyed this video, be sure to check out one of the 2 videos you see here in these cards for more Destiny 2 content. And if you want to keep up to date with everything to do with Destiny 2, then be sure to hit subscribe as well. I'm going to jump into the game as always guys, and I will catch you all again very soon.